welcome to my channel. I'm Megan if you're new here, and if you're returning for another video, thank you guys so much for tuning in. So for one, before we get started, I chopped all my hair off, and if you clicked on this video and you've been thinking about it, then this is your sign to just go ahead and do it, because it is the most freeing and empowering thing you can possibly do. If you're like me, your hair was a security blanket almost for you, and kind of like, you know, a staple of who you are. And it's just been so cool to just cut it off and just start all over fresh. And it's been very, very relieving in a very weird way. So again, if you were thinking about it, you clicked in here, here's your sign to do so. However, as you guys can tell by the title, we are going to be talking about the 6 things I wish I knew before buying a home. Now, before I go any further, I do not regret buying my home, but I wanted to share these things with you guys because it's stuff that I didn't think about, some that are big and I can't believe I didn't think about it, to things that are very small, just to serve as a reminder if you're looking to buy your first home or your next home, or if you're trying to decide between going from renting to owning. These are really, really important things to take into consideration. I've had these questions a couple times that people asked me, and now that I've been here for quite some time, I definitely have some ideas that I wanted to share. So we're gonna go ahead and just kind of get into those. So the first one, and probably the biggest one, which I did know coming into this, but I wasn't as serious about it as I should have, has been to save your money. And not even just for the beginning process of your down payment and your inspection and all the things that you need prior to buying the home, which I've talked about in a previous video. I will link up here. But this is for the money, for the emergency money, for the money when everything goes wrong in your house that possibly can. A month after buying my home, my hot water heater went out, so that was very annoying. Had to replace that. That was a couple $100, I think. I don't even remember. Then I had, my heater broke in 2 different places. It broke on the inside unit, and then it broke on the outside unit, like 2 days apart, and I had to fix that. That was over $1,000 to fix, and it was just very stupid minor things that needed to be fixed. I've had to replace floors. My washing machine blew up. So many things. And thankfully, I'm very good with money, so I've always had the money, or I had family and friends who were super amazing and supportive and were able to kind of help me until I could pay them back whatever they contributed. So I was very blessed and grateful for that. But to have that fund, that oh my gosh, something just blew up fund and I need to fix it, and I need to fix it now, because when my heater went out, it was one of the hottest days in the freaking summer, and you know, my washing machine going out, couldn't wash clothes for a week, and that's disgusting. So it's just, those things happen. When it rains, it pours, right? And unfortunately, when you own your home, you're responsible for everything that goes wrong. So I made a joke the other day on Facebook, you know, it was like, owning your home really makes you grateful for the things that you get as a renter, because as a renter, you do not have to worry about those things. If something blows, breaks, or goes wrong, then the homeowner has to replace that for you. As the homeowner, you have to replace it yourself, which means hundreds, thousands of dollars to fix something. So really make sure that you save that money. Again, you need to save beyond just what you're putting down for a down payment, which could be anywhere from 5 to 50% of a down payment. And then on top of that, you want to have a secure, good amount of money saved up for when those things go wrong, because you're responsible from all of it, from the very tip top of that roof to the freaking ground that the property sits on. You're responsible for everything that goes wrong. So really make sure that you are super strict about putting savings away and not spending it, because that's when that happens. And it's very unfortunate, but it's just the reality of what you're getting yourself into when buying a home. Number 2, so really focus on the landscape and the land of where your home is. So when I went into this, I knew that I wanted a yard. I wanted to have space for my daughter and my animals to be able to run around and enjoy themselves. And I'm very grateful that I did get a yard. However, I didn't get a lawnmower because I just never cut grass, and I lived in an apartment before this and I didn't care, and I hate cutting grass, so I didn't even think about it. And this is why I say pay attention to the land. And it's silly things like this that now that I know for my next home, I will definitely pay attention to. But you know, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna have normal grass. I'll pay somebody to come over here and cut the grass. No big deal. I didn't know that the grass on the side of my yard and the back of my yard, which somebody is here right now to cut my grass, so if it gets loud, you'll hear it, and that's why, grows at a very rapid pace, like literally no lie, probably 3 days. I have that really tall, annoying grass. It's like you're walking through a freaking forest. I don't know. But if I would have known that, I would have been a little bit more reluctant about it, because it just grows so fast. I'm constantly paying somebody to come cut the grass and clean up the yard and take it away. So really pay attention to things like that. What type of weeds are growing? How's the grass growing? annoying. For some people, like my dad, he loved having grass in the yard, and we had a house that had a huge patch of no grass, and that bothered him forever. So if that bothers you, if those things are important to you, also, you know, I'm like a big old hippie, so I don't like cutting down trees. I'm not into any of that. Like, I'm just like, keep it, you know, unless it's putting somebody in danger, don't touch it. But I do have a tree literally that sits over top of my driveway that happens to also be a tree that has an extreme amount of sap. Did not know that, did not pay attention to that, didn't look up, or even, I didn't even think about it. It has so much sap on that dang tree from just the plants that come off of it that it gets on all the cars, ruins everything on the cars. And that is something that, again, if I would have known, that's a quick fix, and I can fix that. But it's just little things like that it's kind of like, okay, you really got to know and just kind of know what you're getting yourself into, because sometimes it can be somewhere where it's really wet. And that's something in the neighborhood that I bought, I did not know until after buying it, that this neighborhood apparently gets really just wet. It's really moist, and the houses, they all have issues with like moisture in the home. So obviously that can cause mold, can cause a lot of rodents, animals, things like that. So that's another thing to seriously be mindful of when you're looking for a home. Number 3 to go along with this is really pay attention to the insects, the air quality, things like that when you're buying a home. So it kind of goes along with the last one that I said, because it's so moist and wet in the neighborhood, the air quality in the house, obviously it was very damp. Everything in here was just very moist, and I hate that word, but it was so disgusting, and like you could feel it pretty heavy the first couple weeks that we moved in. So we had to get a ton of like those big dehumidifiers, and we have one in every room, and it really has helped. But if we didn't get that, I think it would have led to a lot of molds, because it's just wet, and that's just something that this entire neighborhood, I found out after moving in, is, you know, the reality of what it is. The other thing with that is, I did not also realize this, I have the nastiest disgust for ants. I don't do ants. Like, I would rather a spider land in my eyeball than a freaking ant touch me. I don't like them. But because the house was wet, I was getting a ton of ants in the house, like just random ants just coming in. And thankfully, I have an inspector friend who comes and he sprays the house, and I'm done with all the bugs. But that was another thing that kind of, you know, you want to think about, because I didn't think about that. I didn't know that it was going to be wet. I didn't know those things. So I have this house that's attracting these dang ants and all these, you know, insects. And so thankfully I had somebody to come and spray the house, and we haven't had that issue since then. But first moving in, you know, you're seeing these things and we're like, what the heck is going on? There's no real entryway for them. I don't know where they're coming from, but it's happening. So pay attention to things like that when you're looking for your home, because it can very much so be expensive to get those things fixed. Thankfully, you know, we've grown up very cheap, and we've always known like trick ways to handle stuff. So the dehumidifiers, we found cheaper ones, and we knew how to take care of that. We have a friend who does our inspections, so we don't have to pay the inspector prices. But those things, if you don't have those hookups or you're just not aware, can really add up. That stuff adds up, and it's not cheap. So if those things are issues for you, which they should be because they're health hazards, then you definitely want to pay attention to that, and just kind of try to do some more research. Maybe ask around if there's an open house for the house that you're looking at, or things like that. Talk to the neighbors. You can ask the real estate agent, but some of those things agents just don't know, or they're not obligated to tell you. So they just don't have to tell you, and if they don't know, they don't know. But those are some of the major things that I would pay attention to when it comes to just like the comfort of your home. Okay, number 4, this one matches the previous one that I just talked about, and that is have a go-to person or people who can help you with things, especially if you're like me and you just you're not like extremely handsy with a lot of stuff. I try to be, but I'd rather pay somebody else to do it. It's really nice to have people who know what they're doing. I have a friend outside cutting my grass right now that I know it's his business, but he's going to do it for me, and I'm going to still pay him, but it's nice to actually know somebody to do it instead of paying what could be hundreds of dollars to have somebody come do your grass. I have a really good friend who's my go-to, so shout out to you, Rob, for always doing everything I call for him. He comes to my house, he handles all of it, so he really does help me out. And it's really helpful to have that person or those people that you can go to kind of help back you up, because again, like for example, there was one thing that he couldn't fix, and I didn't have anybody who could fix it, and I ended up spending over $1,000 because I had to pay for the fees to get a professional company to come out and do it. Of course, you get charged for parts and labor. So I find it really helpful to have a really strong circle. I mean, it takes a village to do anything, and I am so grateful for my village, and I just highly suggest that if you can, you find that, you build those connections and start having those reports of people who can help you. And you know, it's really helpful. Like, I do the resumes and stuff on the side, so sometimes I'm able to kind of just switch trades and things that I'm good at, and they can help me with what they're good at, and it's really nice to have those people who are constantly there, who you know you can count on. So I would suggest just trying to find and have those people, whether it's family or friends, in your life during this process, because from point A to point whenever you leave, there's going to be a lot that happens, and it's going to be so much more beneficial and helpful for you if you just have constants in your life. Okay, number 5, and this one is pretty obvious, but really do your research on schools, daycares, whatever the case may be in your area. So I did look, but probably not as good as I should have, and I do regret that a little bit now. The area that I'm in is a great area, and I do like it. The neighborhood, the establishment, the community that I'm in is a pretty good neighborhood because it's got a lot of mixtures of different people. We've got white people, black people, Hispanic people, all different types of people back here, and it's very cultured in this community, and it's really good. They do a lot of fun things in the community. They hang out together. They do, like, you know, they just have it's a really big neighborhood, so we get a lot done, and it's very cultured, and I do enjoy that. However, what I didn't know was the county that I moved into was basically the polar opposite of that, and there's a lot of racial issues and concerns over here. Obviously, I'm mixed, I have a mixed daughter, and those two just don't match up very well, and I wish I would have done just a little bit more research so I knew that. Now, would I still have moved over here? Maybe, I don't know, again, because I really like the community and I don't really hang out in the county unless I'm home. I leave the county to do anything, so that doesn't really bother me. But as far as her going to school and things like that, that is concerning. The good thing is I plan on moving again before she goes to school, since she is still so young. I have time. That was, you know, always my plan was never to be in here more than 3 years. But if you have children who are going to school and it's really important to you that they have a cultured community, or they have a community where it's not as, you know, racist and targeting them and the race that they are, whatever that may be, then definitely do your research and really get into that, because some of the schools that she would go to are good schools, and they're also cultured because it's near the neighborhood, but the other options are not, and it's just up in the air when you have that as an option, or you have that as a life that you need to kind of figure out. So definitely do really good research on that. A lot of the sites that you'll find homes will have like what the school is, and then you can go look at the school and you can figure out what that looks like. They will have the daycares. You can do the same thing for those. So that's a big one that should be pretty obvious. Just make sure that you really take that seriously, especially if you have kids, or just for your own comfort in an area that you want to be and you want to feel safe. All right, and number 6, which is the last one we'll do for this video, is that insurance for your home is necessary. You have to have your insurance. Obviously, that's something that you have to have. As you buy your home, they make sure you have insurance. You need to have that. Obviously, it's just like insuring your car. However, the insurance can change. So a lot of the times when you're signing for your home, if you sign for a certain type of lease, your home, you know, the mortgage and things like that don't change, but your insurance can change. And I did not know that. I was kind of upset with that. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but I thought that that was kind of locked in on the rate of my home too, because it's all paid together. So your insurance goes into your mortgage, goes into this, and it's all paid like in one pocket, basically, where all this money is stored, and that's where it comes and stays, and that's where all the payments go out for everything. But just like car insurance or health insurance, or whatever the case may be, the insurance for the house itself can change. So my insurance just went up $30, and that made my home payment go up. Looked like my payment itself stayed the same, but because my insurance increased, the overall that I'm paying a month increased. So I went from $979 to like $1,073. And when I say I was hot, I was so mad. I was texting my agent. I was like, what is going on? And it's just stuff that I didn't think about. And so again, it doesn't change your home because I was locked in for that rate, but when that insurance changes, so does your overall monthly payment, since it all comes out of the same pocket. So those are definitely things to be mindful of. And you're allowed to switch insurance. You can shop around, you can find something else. I like my insurance, so for now I'm going to kind of keep it, but that's something to be mindful of. You're more than welcome to change it, but there's that. So those things can change. And just as a conclusion to all of this, just know that when you're a homeowner, you are obviously very clearly in charge of every single aspect of your home. Everything that breaks, everything that goes wrong, where you live, what you do, where you're at, who you're around, all these things. You're responsible for all of that. And that's obviously not something to take lightly. If you watched my previous video that was linked earlier about how I bought my home, you guys know that I also will say this though, do not take this so much into accountability that you chase a unicorn or that purple squirrel in a home, meaning that you find every single thing that I talked about in this video plus that video, because that's not going to happen. I mean, unfortunately, even when you're buying the perfect home that's already ready to move in, you're either still going to have some issues because even a brand new car blows up sometimes, right? Or you're going to be house poor because you're going to be paying some crazy mortgage that is the point of getting out of renting, right? You don't want to pay extra for something that you don't need to, because more often than not, your mortgage can be less than your rent if you're very smart about it. And so for me, that meant that I was going to sacrifice a little bit about some things, but that's, part of the game. So I would just suggest that don't do too much. Don't go looking for everything that's going to be perfect, because it's probably not going to be absolutely perfect no matter what. But also be mindful to not be house poor, to not drive yourself absolutely crazy and passing up good options because you're looking for perfect. So I hope that this video helped. I know, again, these were requested and these were just 6, but I have some more tips and I'm sure I'll have more as we go. If you guys think of anything, more tips that you kind of took into account when you were looking for a home, or now that you're in your home, please make sure you drop those. Or if you guys have any questions, let me know that as well. More than anything, guys, know that you are so loved. You matter so deeply. I hear you. I see you. I love you guys, and I will talk to you next time. Also, cut your hair.